Hello and thanks for tuning in to this New Game Plus video on the basics of setting up your stream at home. As well as we'll look into some of the simple things you can do to take your stream from here to here and really get it to pop without making it too complicated. You don't see much from me. I'm Prospect. I'm the editor for New Game Plus and have been since we began. I'm also responsible for the setup of a lot of the streaming we've done from back to the early days, some of the recent stuff by myself, as well as all our larger event stuff in between. Before we get too stuck in, there's a bit of a disclaimer. This video is being supported by Elgato, but joke's on them, because spoiler alert, we probably would have recommended their stuff anyway. Anyway, let's get into it. So the very first thing you need to consider is how you're actually going to get your game from your console into your computer. Obviously for PC gamer, not so much of an issue. But let's assume we're working on console here. So you're going to be streaming off your computer. Now your graphics card is going to have an output to send a signal out to your monitor, but your computer is not likely to have an input to receive a signal. So that's why you need a game capture device. Now the simplest way to do this is through USBs. This is where the Elgato Game Capture HD60 comes in. There's a lot like it. There's a lot of products that do the same thing, but honestly, of all the ones we've tried, we like the HD60 in New Game Plus quite a lot. We use it for a number of things. So one of the sort of defining characteristics of this HD60 being an external capture card, as we call it, is it captures through USB. If you're not comfortable opening up your computer to do installation, you don't need to worry about that. You essentially plug HDMI in one end, USB the other, out to the computer, ready to go, no hassle. It has HDMI pass-through as well, so you can view your footage in real time without having to worry about any delays. USB game capture really is probably the simplest solution for you to use. You need a capture device. Simplest way to do it is likely USB. One of your better options is the HD60 or the HD60 Plus. The only difference is one does 4K HDR, the other one only does 1080, which is still very, very good and more than you're going to need. So that's where you should start. So you've got game capture. Next most important is face capture. You want to actually show your face to your audience. You want to have that little webcam punch out in the corner so you can actually engage with the audience. So this is our basics video. So the most basic way to do that, webcam. Camera on one end, USB on the other. Really, really simple. There's a bunch of them out there. This is a Logitech C920, I think. This is a Logitech StreamCam. They essentially do the same thing. So you've got choices with webcams. We have Logitech, but it's sort of much of a muchness. The difference between even these two cameras is very, very slight, and that's because there's one simple thing to take into account here. Webcams are great because they're USB. You plug them in, they work. They work with Discord, they work with Skype, they work with OBS, they work with everything. But webcams are also really bad because of one debilitating factor, and that's this right here. It's a itty bitty tiny little pinhole lens. Doesn't matter if it's 720 webcam or a 1080 webcam or a 4K webcam, you still have the tiny little itty bitty lens. So the actual difference between a good webcam and a bad webcam isn't always that good. So if you're going with the simple solution of just a webcam, you have to really take that into consideration. Don't stress too much about which webcam you buy. These examples here, we've spent between $150 $200, right about that price range anymore, and someone's ripping you off because of the pandemic. So there are some ways we can overcome some of the limitations that you have with a webcam, and one of the big ones that's always overlooked, I find, is the actual positioning of the webcam. Webcams are usually designed with a little system like this, where it's got a hook that you can put on the back of your monitor and have it sitting above you. While this is convenient, it can actually be a bit of a problem. If you think about how we use cameras instead of just webcams, we like to have them pointing directly at us, straight ahead, as opposed to on top of a monitor as pointing down. The difference between straight on and pointing down can make a huge difference to how your shot looks. You may even consider pushing it off to the side as opposed to being dead on. So one of the first things that I recommend is getting one of these. This is a clamp. It's by Small Rig. It's only about $15 Australian, probably even less if you're watching in the US. And it's really handy. It gives you way more mounting options. Obviously you can clamp this onto anything you want. Both the Logitech cameras I mentioned before come with standard mounting screws. So you can mount these together. So you've got way more options here. I can clamp it wherever I need to. I've got a ball head so I can put it in any direction, and it really opens up what you can do. The second inexpensive thing I'd recommend you buy is one of these. This is an articulated arm, also from Small Rig, also pretty cheap, around the $10, $20 mark. And this is really, really handy because it gives you reach. So I've mounted it here with the webcam on one end, the clamp on the other. So now I've got a system where I can clamp this to the bench or the monitor stand, and then actually move the camera around in 3D space. This is super handy because having the difference between actually moving the camera forward and backwards, which you don't get if you just sit it on top of your monitor, makes a huge difference to how your shot works. So simple tools like this can help you reposition the camera, which makes a huge difference to your shot. But perhaps the thing that makes the biggest difference is our next section, which is lighting. So as I mentioned before, the limiting factor, and even on quite a good webcam, is the fact that it's got a tiny, tiny lens. The best way to make the most of that is to flood it with as much light as possible. So there's a bunch of options out there in terms of what lights you can get, whether you get film lights, whether you get game lights, whether you get all sorts of things like that. But the first thing you need to consider is actually the lighting in your room. Where you're sitting in relation to the lights in the roof or windows in front of you or the light being thrown by your monitor makes a big difference. The situations you're trying to avoid is where your face is darker than the rest of your room. You really want your face, your head, the thing that people are supposed to be concentrating on, be the brightest thing. So that can mean manipulating where your desk is or where in relation to your windows or the lights in your room or lamps on your desk. But in most cases, it's going to be easier and better just to get another light. Now, in the spirit of keeping things as simple as possible in this video, this is where a light like this comes in really handy. So this is an on-camera light from Aperture. This particular one is the M9. It's about $60 on Amazon, and it's really great, and it's really, really bright. Watch this. Wow. These lights are really, really handy. Again, I'd recommend the clamp and arm setup to get them in the right position, but the difference they can make is astronomical. I'd perhaps even consider turning off your house lights, lamps, whatever. Start in the dark with your computer and use one of these as your sole source of lighting, so you're not competing with things else. Being closer, brighter, and generally pointing in the right direction, a light like this really allows your webcam to make the most out of your image. So a webcam's going to catch a video, but not audio. Well, it will, but really, really poorly. Never use the mic that's built into your webcam. It's not built for purpose. There's a heap of options out there in terms of capturing your voice with a mic. Some of them are really complex, so let's stick with the simple ones. Gaming headset. Chances are you probably already have one. If not, you're probably looking between $100 to $300 to invest in one that's okay. And this mic, or the equivalent one on yours, is going to be the best option in terms of capturing good, easy commentary for your streams. This one in particular is an Astro, they're quite good. We also recommend Logitech and SteelSeries. We've had good success with those in the past. But like I said before, if you're looking at buying a new one, you probably want to spend between $100 and $300. So that's it, that's our stream. We've covered the 4 main things you need to think about: game capture, webcam, lighting, and audio. I really hope I was able to give you some tips and tools to build better streams with those base level solutions. And they are base level solutions because when we really think about it, the sky is the limit. There's so much more you can do with the stream. And we will be exploring that in an upcoming video where instead of confining ourselves to the basics to get going, we go all out and really see what we can do. Like I said at the start, this video is supported by Elgato and they've sent us a bunch of cool toys to play with, and we're really going to go all out looking at internal solutions, different lighting solutions, audio solutions, Stream Deck, all sorts of cool stuff. So make sure to stay tuned for that video as well. But for now, thanks for watching, subscribe, check us out on social media, and I'll see you next time.